We said that if we needed to. Okay.
Hopefully we don't have a problem. We don't know.
I watched it last night.
I had it written down differently than that. I had it written down.
I don't see her. I told security, so maybe she's driving from Austin, so no telling.
Skip it.
I could just tell everybody that she was supposed to.
No, it's fine. We'll just skip it. Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, thanks. As usual, my daughter bought them for me.
She's got good taste.
That's cool.
2 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Never mind 3 minutes. Never mind. That would be your.
I just didn't read it right. That makes sense. Okay.
Right?
Unless they're called.
It's gotta be black or gray or color. Hey, yeah, that's the latest thing. Like fluorescent,
But everything on the computer. Yeah, well, Bill had some of it.
I will try not to picture. I promise.
Oh, you were?
showing the lady from Boston that's supposed to be very late. And that's why I kept telling her, I'm looking, I'm like, are you Rachel?
Yeah, I know.
Thanks for getting this.
Yes, no. I don't know if she's gonna read it. I'm pretty excited. It just happened Monday.
I mean, makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
The ones that I got this morning,
Still are, it's all swollen.
those are as of yesterday. That's what I was
Not
told.
quite.
It's healing.
Yeah.
People are sometimes they don't heal.
Oh, well, don't tell me that, because
No,
I'm very
seriously.
young.
No, I know, but I'm serious because of my father.
Yeah, I know.
Is that yesterday's date on there?
That was after.
Good morning. I call this meeting to order at 9:30 in the morning. Present are Vice President William Link, Treasurer Deborah Isaacs, Director Dan Sullivan, and myself, constituting a quorum. Also present are Mr. Philip Garcia, Acting Executive Officer, Ms. Christina Rodriguez, Executive Secretary. Please rise for the invocation that will be given by Ms. Katie Brown and remain standing for the reciting of the pledge to the United States and Texas flags.
Morning. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to meet together this morning in this beautiful place where we live. We ask that you be with us in powerful ways to guide us and to guide our new board as they establish themselves here at Fort Clark. We ask that you open our hearts and our minds that we might clearly see what you would have us do. We ask that you protect those in our government who are dealing with situations along the border and those who are serving in other countries. We ask all of this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. We're going to skip the presentation to the recycling committee. Their representative was not available. And we're going to move to approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting, March 20th, 2019. Director's minutes from this board meeting were provided to you in your board packets. Are there any corrections? If there are no further corrections, all in favor of approving the minutes as distributed, signify by raising your hand. Passes unanimously. The minutes are approved. Before Ms. Isaacs provides her report, I wanted to thank her for spending all day yesterday working on getting numbers to discuss at today's meeting. We have found that we have a very long way to go with this process, and I applaud her for her dedication to getting the information for both the board and to report to the membership. So Ms. Isaacs.
Okay, our treasurer's report's going to be a little different. We kind of think we talked about it. We have talked about it, and I think that figures that might be more important to the membership would be our Fort Clark revenue per month and our expenses for the month. So I have got January's. The total FCSA revenue for January was $225,652.84. The total expenses for January were $138,875.75 for a net profit of $86,777.09. I have been told these are audited figures, but I still at this point want to show them as preliminary. The report for February, total February FCSA revenue, $204,945.12. And the expenses for February were $173,258.71 for a net profit of $31,686.41. I was just handed the actual bank balances. I did not even get a chance to total them out. So hopefully next month we will have our income, our profit and loss statement that we will give out, and then our actual bank balances for the month. Sorry, this is all I've got for you, but we're hoping that this will clarify what comes in and what goes out on a monthly basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Isaacs. Mr. Lawrence is currently on vacation, and Mr. Philip Garcia has been acting executive officer and has been doing a fantastic job keeping the operations running. Mr. Garcia, do you have a report?
I do. Right in line. I'm trying to just yell. It don't matter. Can y'all hear me? Okay, thank you. So basically what I have is just reports on what's going on around the fort with things that need to be discussed. And I had spoke with Maria and sent her some pictures of issues that we're having at the fort. We're dealing with a lot of vandalism and damage to our, there's some pictures there. There's a broken window at the adult center, kicked in door at the adult center, someone tearing up donuts in our lawn. And those are just pictures that I've had, ripping up signs at the pool, busting down the rocks. Those are pictures that I had. There's so many more things that I hadn't taken pictures of. And as of October, our fiscal year beginning, I'm going to say about $1,200 worth of damage. And that's not including my people's time. That's just the things that we have to buy to replace. Toilet seats, especially at the swim park. After hours, I mean, we have security, we lock the gates, but people can walk back there. They kick the toilets, kick the toilet seats off, grab the back of the tanks, break them in the thing, open up the cabinets, kick the plumbing, so we'll show up and there's water everywhere. I don't. The locks are pulled off the doors. I mean, this is every summer. And it's the same group that we deal with. I'm not saying names, but what I'm asking the board for is that we come up with some way that we can make them accountable. The parents, if they're juveniles, if they're not juveniles, make them pay. I mean, this is our money, our place, and we're dumping a lot of money into dumb things getting broke. So that's kind of important to me, because we're the ones that have to stop what we're doing to go fix little things, and it's ridiculous. The other thing I wanted to speak about is, so our trash route is on Mondays, and we pick up household trash, white goods, cardboard, and lately a lot of people are dumping their white goods, bulk white goods, in green areas. Now we charge for bulk, oversized couches, mattresses, whatever. We charge for that, but if they're being dumped in common area, I can't pin it on anybody, so the fort takes that. So those of y'all that talk to your neighbors and see that going on, let them know, hey, that's not the way to do it. Just put it in front of your house, it'll get picked up, there may be a charge. I don't break anybody's bank book over it, but it does help out. I have the summer energy contract needs to be renewed in June. Summer Energy is the company that we use. They're through AEP. So a portion of this fort is ran by AEP, is powered by AEP, and the other is Rio Grande. Unit 1, Unit 3, different areas are split between AEP and Rio Grande. So the summer energy contract will need to be renewed.
And I think that was going up 0.9%.
We were
0.9.
Yeah, 4, now it's 4.9.
Mhm.
One other thing is the weather sign. I'm getting a lot of questions about whether the siren goes off. There's those that think we control it, those that think it didn't go off. I've got information from the emergency management coordinator, and I'll ask Christy to put it out on a dispatch. The way that works is the National Weather Service will call in to the emergency management coordinator and tell them, listen, we got a severe storm coming, thunderstorm, tornado, whatever. And the emergency management coordinator and the sheriff are the only ones that have control of that switch. And it's at the sheriff's department. It's not here, it's not at the city, it's at the sheriff's department. And they have to physically push the button. There is some other things that the emergency management coordinator gave me, and there's the county provides a countywide web-based alert system. Residents are registered online at alertsense.com, and they will receive alerts either on a cell phone or landline, and this is at no cost to anybody. It's for free. I'll have that information either up front or in the dispatch in case anybody's interested in that.
Philip,
Yes,
there
ma'am.
was comments that it went off, but it was very weak. Can it be turned up, or can we find out? A lot of people said it did go off, and
Yeah.
I heard it go off, but it was not real strong.
Right. Well, now if the wind was blowing, I mean, the way the sound moves, if the wind is blowing real hard, it's hard to hear it. I've had people right across the street say they didn't hear it, but I've had people up the street say they did. I don't know if there's a volume level on it. I can't find that out. But again, that's controlled by the sheriffs. I can go look, but I'll have to talk with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The mattresses, we were going to get new mattresses for the hotels, or for the motel, and currently we're still kind of going back and forth. We sent an email out on the 15th, and we're waiting on a response. Being that it's such a big order, it can't go through the store. It has to go through the actual distributor, so we're kind of going back and forth with it. Fortunately, we are still able to use the sale price, even though the sale has went off, because we've been dealing with this since the beginning of March. So they still honored the price. Last is the doors on the motel. They are going up. Some of y'all have seen them upstairs in Bullis. It's kind of a slow process because nothing matches in those buildings. Nothing's cut straight. Everything's uneven. So it takes a little bit of finagling to get it in. But once he gets them going, he's kind of got an idea of how they're all going to work out. So 5 of them are done now. The end of that project should be done by June 2nd. And all the doors should be up. Again, these are with the electronic key cards, so we're not having to worry about broken keys anymore. They just reset the card like in all the other hotels you go to, and I think it's going to be easier for everybody. That's really all I've got, except for ED. We want to bring it up yet.
Yes. Before we bring up the leap, does anyone else have questions for the acting EO?
Who is it that's installing those motel doors?
A gentleman by the name of Victor Huerta. He's a contractor out of Bracket here.
All right, great. You guys ready? Come on up. We got a mic right here for you.
Hello, my name's Johnny Miser. I'm with Lee Cooper Company. December 26th, we had a hailstorm here right after Christmas. We got a 5-year labor warranty on all of our work that we've done for the fort and all the people who live here in Brackenfield. As y'all know, we put on a ton of roofs around here. It's my duty to come and inspect and look and see if there's anything that hinders or damages, you know what I mean, on our warranty work. Hail damage, we'll make a roof leak. Y'all get leaked, y'all, I'm under a contract with y'all for 5 years. Same with y'all have a contract with me for 5 years. If y'all get a leak, y'all call me, I have to come fix what's wrong with it and any damage that it may, get. Well, I met the adjuster out here on December, I don't know what day it was, but it was in December. And we walked every building. And we found damage on every one of them. The insurance company allowed to replace all the fort roofs in the December storm. Well, of course, now here Saturday we had this real bad storm. We're here to help y'all. I talked to Mr. Lawrence, I talked to Philip, I talked to the insurance company. We had come up with a figure on the thing where last time when we roofed your old buildings, y'all had it's called a 25-year 3-tab, which is the cheapest roof on the market. Last time in 16 when I roofed the buildings, the leak stepped up out of my pocket, and I upgraded everybody to a 30-year shingle, colored metal edging, colored vents, spent some good money that the insurance company didn't even allow for. I did that for y'all and for me because I knew within a period of 5 years, it probably was going to get held again. And they paid more money this time on these buildings than what they did last time. We come up with an agreement on the deal, and the way we're working it is where it's not going to cost the fort a dime other than the insurance money to replace every roof on here. With my advertising in front of each building, I'm making allowance for that. As far as I'm talking about the deductible. My guys are going to be staying in a motel while this project is going on. That's cooking on the cost. The firehouse, as far as storing my material there. Everything, but I mean, that's pretty much what I've got to say about it, and hopefully we don't get another one tonight. But that's what they're calling for. But every roof that I've got on and inspected has got major damage on it now, big time. And it's our duty to go and fix this stuff right here to keep my warranty valid with everybody. We're under a contract with you guys, and we're here to help y'all on everything we got. But if it don't, I mean, I'm trying to work it where it don't cost anybody no money out of their pocket, because it's a warranty work, and the insurance, y'all pay insurance. I'm not after the insurance company. I'm after my warranty and protecting us and y'all due to leaks. And that's where we're in, that's why we're here. But we'll see what tonight brings, and go from there.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have questions? All right, thanks for talking to us.
You're welcome.
All right. Before we start the committee reports, I'm going to ask that when the committees come forward that you identify if you have any vacancies in your committee. What we're going to be doing is we're going to send a message out membership-wide to ask for any volunteers who want to fill in those gaps in those committees. Also, I'm going to ask our committees to keep your reports at 2 minutes or less. I have a timer here. He's a professional timer. But we're trying to keep these meetings brief and to the point, so if there's stuff that you absolutely need to tell us, please do. We want to hear it, but we want to keep the reports down. So with that, the first one is the airport. And I actually have that report.
So I get to time you.
Time me, yeah, time me. Okay, so for the airport committee report, there are no vacancies in the committee. We had 2 pilots visit the airfield this month. April 27th from 1 to 3 is our open house. This is for members to see what we do on the airfield and will be in conjunction with our fly-in. 19 hours and $350 of personal funds were spent this month mowing and repairing the perimeter fence on the airfield. Approximately $600 of personal funds have been spent on promotional items for the fly-in as well as operating expenses for the fly-in. There is damage to the main hangar windows after the hailstorm, and that will need to be addressed in the insurance claims for the fort. And the reason the airport committee didn't have a representative here is because they're currently on the airfield assessing those windows right now. How is that?
Less than a minute.
Excellent. All right, architecture committee.
Hi. This is a report for mostly for March. On Tuesday, I was appointed by the committee as chairperson. And on April 2nd, we appointed Linda O'Brien and Bill Herman to the architectural committee. We now have 6 members and we have 1 seat open. We met 4 times in March. We had 17 permits. We tabled 2, denied 1. We sent out a variety of violations for problems: mowing, weeds, painting, building maintenance, junk, working without a permit. And that's it.
Okay, any questions for architecture? Equine committee?
I don't have a new report because it was turned in about 2 weeks ago to Mr. Lawrence in writing. So I hope you've seen it.
Y'all have a copy of it.
Oh, is that what you just received?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the only, as far as a vacancy, I do have a woman who's on the committee but who has left the bark, but has not submitted a resignation. So I don't know exactly where we stand with all of that.
Okay.
That's it.
Anyone have questions for Equine? All right, thank you. Golf?
Good morning. We don't have any openings on our committee at this point in time. And in fact, I'm not on the committee. I am just here representing the committee as they all are employed. The golf committee met yesterday. Off of the Los Morris tournament, they netted approximately $8,000. Not all funds are in from sponsorships and whatnot. They paid $2,000 to the golf course for trail fees. They received, they brought in $1,500 profit from beer sales, but that did not go to the golf course. That goes to the Fort General Fund or wherever they direct that. $2,000 of that will go towards 2 $1,000 scholarships to be awarded to high school seniors in May. They talked about and set dates for upcoming tournaments in the fall, Halloween, Hunters around Hunters Roundup. We're working around Hunters Roundup. The Church Alliance and Turkey Shoot will be combined again this year. The Kris Kringle in December, and the Hangover Tournament on January 1st. Thank you.
All right, any questions for golf? Thank you. All right, preservation?
Morning.
Good morning.
You also
We
have
have no vacancies. However, we welcome any auxiliaries that would like to attend and help us out at any time. We appreciate that. Seminole Hall windows, the 13 windows should be finished by this Friday. Philip and I checked the commissary after this last storm. The drainage system seems to be working real well. There was no water inside other than what came through the door. Julie Guy from the Texas Historical Commission was here on the 27th of March. She looked at the Dickman Hall awning progress at that time and the other THC buildings, designated buildings, and she seemed to be happy with what she saw, and I have kept her up to date with what's happening with the awning. And speaking of the awning, the last thing is I'm sure Philip has filled you in on what the situation is with the awning, and so I'm standing by for a decision on how you want to proceed with that.
Enlighten us on that.
The awning had got damaged from the hail. It was put on by AAA. I wasn't sure how we were going to go with it because we hadn't even signed off on the job yet, nor had they gotten their final check. So when I spoke with who I thought was our adjuster, had been our adjuster, he said the options are either AAA can take out an insurance claim on it, or we could. Now, Bessie Martin was over here inspecting. She was told to come over and inspect the work. I kind of told her what's going on. She was supposed to get a hold of Pete, and Pete was supposed to get a hold of me. That hasn't happened. So as of now, we still have the final check that we haven't given out, and it does have damage. So I don't know how they want to cover that.
But you have not actually talked to AAA?
No.
Okay.
He was supposed to call me yesterday. I spoke with one of his workers.
Okay, then how about we just follow up after you talk to him?
Absolutely.
Is that sound good?
Yeah, typically in a job where work's not done yet, you're going to try to get them to make the insurance claim themselves. So let's see if we can't get them to go in that direction.
Okay.
Just FYI, they did send me the bill yesterday for the final payment. I told them, of course, we had to walk through it before we could give it to them. They understood that, so Philip, I'll be getting with you this afternoon probably. We'll talk about it.
Yes.
Just let us know how that goes. Recycling.
I want to introduce Rachel Herring, who is the representative from Austin here. Unfortunately, she had to drive all this way, so she is going to give us a little special award.
Yes. I apologize for being late. Your award got mixed up with Fort Sam Houston's award, so I had to exchange those this morning. So I apologize for that. I am with CTRA. We're the organization that helps sell your recyclables and get them moved for you. We are a statewide organization, and we work all over the state, from the Panhandle to Palacios. Any community that has a harder time recycling, we usually like to come in and work with you guys to help, because I know when you're further away from a metropolitan area, you have a much harder time recycling. Today I just wanted to come out and thank Philip. He's doing an amazing job. Thank Helena for doing such a good job as well. They both have been really, really special to work with. Right now, the recycling industry is in a very bad place. You probably have seen articles and things like that going on. But if it's any consolation, when y'all first started this program was probably the worst markets we've ever seen, and we really weren't sure where it was going to go. Now we're here 10 years later, and in that past 10 years, you've recycled over 600,000 pounds of recyclables. So it's an amazing feat. It's a really, I work with cities all over the state, populations of 50,000 that don't have recycling programs. So the fact that you are doing it here is pretty amazing, saving space in your landfill. Tomorrow I'll be in Austin reviewing a landfill permit, and it will take them years to get that going through. So the fact that you're doing something proactively is really special, and why I wanted to come out today to present this 10-year award to y'all. Great. 2018. So
Good, thank you. We got all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, that's super. Thank you. And we should say a word that 10 years ago, Judy Winchell started.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, I mean, Judy and Lee were very instrumental. I mean, this is just as much their award, I think, because she was the one that kept calling me. I said, okay, we're going to make something happen. Let's figure it out. So, but like I said, with the markets right now, the cardboard is definitely pulling y'all through and making this program a little bit easier. Your aluminum cans, your white paper, those are all things that have a great market, have some revenue coming back on it. So if nothing else, getting those to the recycling center makes a big difference.
And incidentally, I don't think I've told you, I'm now going to Rio Grande Electric once a week and getting all of their cardboard, which is a huge amount. Probably Philip knows because every Monday I put it out. And also the aging center here, we're getting their cardboard.
And we also get the high schools. The school brings
Well,
us
the
a
high
trailer.
school for sure, yeah.
Right.
And we've been doing that for a few years. Oh, and the other thing I'm getting from Rio Grande Electric is their aluminum cans.
Perfect. And that was another thing. We did a project. I know some of y'all might know that we were accepting cartons, like milk cartons and juice cartons. That was a project that we did. I'm sorry, I know we're going over 2 minutes. That was a project that we did from the Carton Council, which is a national organization. They said we really want to introduce some rural recycling as far as cartons go. And I said, I want Texas to be the first one, and you guys were one of 4 that we started that project with. And obviously Brackett ISD did an amazing job, probably more than y'all would ever have wanted in cartons, but they really did a great job. And they actually came to Austin, I think it was in February, and spoke to a bunch of statewide leaders and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality about how great their program was going and what they were doing. And they very much gave credit to the fort, saying, you know, without the recycling program going on at the fort, this wouldn't have been possible either. So you kind of got some kudos on that side as well, on a statewide level too. So
Good deal.
yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much for driving out here to do that. Appreciate it. Did you have a report, Ms. McDonald?
That was my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Does community council have a report?
Good morning, how's everybody doing?
Great.
Good. Our next community council meeting is this Saturday, April 20th, 10 a.m. in this boardroom. That makes up for the hail delayed meeting from last Saturday morning. About 30 seconds after I announced that there would be no meeting last Saturday, the sun came out. It was a beautiful day for the rest of the day. I had no control over that whatsoever. I made a decision at the time. We have one vacancy that will be filled this Saturday. I can report that the Fort Clark Days Planning Committee for Fort Clark Days 2020 has had excellent volunteer response. Sandra Vance is doing a great job getting that ball rolling. And I think we can all look forward to one fantastic Fort Clark Days in March of 2020. I'd also like to request that that the board please include a community council report at the next board meeting. I understand now we have to make a formal request every time, so if you would please keep us on your agenda for next month, we would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for community council? Okay, great. All right. So before we go into action items, I want to explain how we're going to be doing these now. For those of you who watched the workshop or attended the workshop, you'll already know what we're going to be doing, but I'm just going to go ahead and explain this. All of the supporting documentation for any of the action items that we've already received those in our board packets. So as the chair, what I'm going to do for each of these motions is accept a motion to consider the action item and look for a second on those. And then I'm going to open the floor for discussion. We're going to go down the line. We'll probably start with Mr. Sullivan and go down the line, and every director is going to have up to 2 minutes to provide their inputs or their questions, concerns, whatever it might be based on what we've already received. On the slides up here, which I hope you're enjoying watching those, On the slides up here, it's going to give you a synopsis of what it is that we're going to be discussing, what we're being asked to make a decision on. And then after the first round of director inputs, we're going to go one more round if needed. And then what I'm going to do is I will open the floor to the membership for 3 member inputs up to 1 minute in length apiece. And this is not an opportunity to throw 25 questions at a board member and ask them for answers to the questions. This is your opportunity to state how you feel, what your position is based on the action item, in a professional and respectful manner. If it does get out of hand, 2 things are going to happen. I'm going to ask you to go back to your seat. And the second thing is we're going to readdress if the board will include member input in the future. So we want to allow that. We think your input is very important to our decision-making process, but at the same time it needs to be professional and respectful and not get out of hand. So board members, do we agree to these terms, and are we good with what I just said?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan? Are we good?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not opposed.
Okay. And membership out in the audience, we all understand those parameters, correct? Great.
Just as to re-emphasize, as I've said in the past, and I don't know if it's always been well accepted, but this is a director's meeting,
Correct.
not a members' meeting.
Correct.
But as our president said, your input is very important.
Yes. Okay, so the first action item that we're going to be talking about is considering the approval of a procedure for appraisal and sale of Fort Clark Springs owned property. Do I have a motion to consider this?
I'll make a motion to consider this.
I'll second it.
Okay, great. So we have a motion and a second, and we're going to go ahead and start with Mr. Sullivan.
The second option is one that I proposed to Richard about a month ago, but it has been modified. So what it involves is having the realtors open on any properties that we own that have structures on them. All the local realtors are invited to come and inspect the property. One of the different points is that normally you have coffee and donuts there. That helps attract them, and they have a chance to familiarize themselves with the property and therefore can talk to any prospective buyers they're working with more intelligently. In addition, you ask them on the way out to write on a card. They don't have to identify who it is, but what they think the property will sell for. This proposal has them turning it in as a deadline. I think oftentimes you'll get no response that way, but if on their way out they're given a card, or on their way in even, to fill out what they think, that gives us a good variety of opinions from people that are in the business, and so I would be in favor of that with the 2 modifications: donuts and coffee, and an opinion of price on the way out. Thank you.
Mr. Young.
Okay, don't anybody fall over. I completely agree with everything Dan just said. Absolutely 100%. I love the donuts and coffee idea. That should be without question. We should be making them feel very welcome. In addition, this particular option is what I liked as well. I like the idea of giving the realtors a chance to come in, everybody kind of put their thoughts in. I kind of like the idea of them leaving the bids kind of like as a blind bid where they just submit it, drop it wherever we have them in an envelope in a box or whatever. That way we're kind of getting everybody's opinion. They don't have to discuss it amongst themselves or whatever. They can just write out whatever they think and throw it in the box, and I think that's the way we should go about it.
I also agree, even with the modifications. Contingent upon you going and getting those donuts and bringing them in.
I didn't catch that. Sorry.
No, I said contingent upon you bringing the donuts. Like you go get the donuts. Yes, yes, sir.
That's a possibility. Slim, but it is.
No, I agree with all of that. I think that it's important to build that relationship with all of our realtors and not show favoritism to one, even on accident or on purpose. And so I do think that second option is great as well. Ms. Isaacs?
I agree. I think we need to work a little more closely with our realtors on even our lots, not just the structures also. But we all need to be on the same page and try to sell our properties, whether we get anything out of it or not. So, yes, I do agree, Dan.
Do we have a reattack?
I do.
Okay.
I forgot to mention, we do need to establish compensation for the realtor, whatever the going rate would be is what I would recommend. And that they're protected. They register the name of someone they're showing the property to, that they have protection and it can't go around it. I think Deborah would know all the details of that, or I could offer them all, maybe some insight also outside of this. That's all.
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna time myself, I'm just gonna say I agree with Dan on that point.
Okay. Well, there's two pieces of this. So the appraisal portion of that for property that has like a home on it, I think that's what we're agreeing on. But we did not address the empty lots. We have a lot of those. Are we going to want to raise the value of those lots at $3,500? It's an open-ended question. And then the other part of that is the sale of the properties. As far as the commission's concerned, there is a proposal in here that would give 10% commission to the realtor that sells a vacant lot, and then if it's a home a dwelling being sold, it would be a 3% commission, which I believe is a standard business practice in the real estate industry. So, are there reattacks on that?
I think that's fine. I do think that the pricing of the lots has to be addressed. All our lots are the same price, and that makes no sense. A golf course lot should be worth more than one in just a unit off somewhere. So that's something that has to be done. Maybe you need some blanket consulting information from local realtors that we may have to pay a few dollars for, but it'll be worth it. And it wouldn't be so arbitrary as if, say, the board just picks a number out of the sky.
Some of those golf course lots are so narrow, though, that you can't even build a good structure on them. And then if you have to go so long, then they're having to buy 2 or 3 lots to even get any type of, because some of them don't go back very far back at all, as far as depth wise. So I'm not real sure. We're forcing people to buy 2 and 3 lots, and then they can't even really build a good structure on them because of their lot lines.
Are some of those lots adjacent to each other?
Yes, they are.
What can we do? Can we possibly combine some of those lots to make them more?
But it still doesn't help the depth.
Well, no, it doesn't. That's true.
It's just something to realize. I am a Texas realtor, and actually I have not even tried to sell any of the Fort slots. I have sold a couple of them, strictly gratitude only, followed them through, get them processed. They come looking at a lot I have. I tell them what the Fort has, and I have sold many lots, but I have not received 1 penny from the Fort in this aspect. And normally I could not receive any money, so there is a conflict of interest with me selling the Fort lots, other than what I just said. But you really we don't want to force, our lots are selling, so we want to continue to sell our lots. But before we raise the price on them, we really need to look at the consequences because of the size of them.
Are there any other comments? Okay, so I'm going to open the floor up to 3-member comments on this matter. Mr. Lackness.
I wasn't prepared to say this, but
Please speak in the mic.
if the Fort is going to sell properties, they still have the same responsibility as the members do to keep those lots cleared with brush. And there's a property on the corner of Fort Clark and Fairway. The Fort's not even cut into the street. It's pretty bad. And then there's a property which I don't think belongs to the Fort on the 4th Green that has been cleared, but they left the brush sit. And We actually even asked them to move it, so they moved it onto their property. So now we gotta go back and say, clear it. But it's important that the fort keep cleaned up too, even though we don't necessarily, architecture committee does not have the responsibility for green space, but the fort properties should be cleared.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Katie Brown?
I don't know how viable this thought is, but I'm thinking about these lots being too small, maybe to build on, too long, too narrow, whatever. What about if there is already a residence next to that lot, offering that piece of property to that property owner at a possibly a reduced price? And that way, not only is the lot now back in where we're getting something off of it, but also you have somebody to take care of that lot, so it is mowed down and maintained.
Thank you. We have one more comment. Ms. Vale?
I like what she just said. And I don't know if it's viable.
Please speak in the mic.
I don't know if it's viable or not, but it's been said that our acreage for common property is low. It's below the 1,600 or whatever we're supposed to have. Can some of those unviable lots maybe be turned back into common space to increase? I don't know what our declaration or if that's possible. And the other thing is, if there is a lot close or next to it and it's not real viable, is there a way to marry that lot with the person, not just a discount, but make it one lot instead of two?
Okay. Thank you. So we have a couple of options. We can choose to vote that we want to address the sale of the properties to at least give the realtors some compensation formally, and also address the open house, if you will, that's limited to realtors, and then table the portion of the actual appraisal of the properties to next month to give us an opportunity to look at a map and decide which ones we're going to identify as more valuable property, or we can table this entire thing until May.
I think we ought to go ahead and try to do the open house and get that other property. There's lots of lookers right now. So while we have the lookers, I believe we ought to try to get that one house sold. Get it to where we can get it sold. There's one other thing that's not addressed on here, and that's the lot option. I had a client call yesterday who said they wanted to lot up, and they were told there was only one lot in that lot option pool.
Well, that's a separate subject.
Okay.
So we're now, do I have a motion to approve the proposed commission rates for a realtor that sells Fort Clark property, along with providing that open house for the realtors?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So we are voting on the proposal of the commission only for both the sale of the vacant lot at the fort, and then the commission to be given to a realtor under the standard business practices for selling dwellings or anything that has some sort of structure on it. In addition, we're going to be giving the realtors the opportunity to come to an open house that Mr. Sullivan's going to provide donuts for, and we will be asking them to put a card with their value, their professional opinion on that value, so that we can move forward with that sale, a blind bid. That's what we're voting on. So all in favor of that motion, signify by raising your hand. Passes unanimously. And the portion that is being tabled is the actual value of appraised properties, which we will address at the next board meeting. The second action item is to consider adopting a director on call program. We talked about this at length at our workshop, and I've consolidated all of our notes into a resolution. So, board, would you like for me to read the resolution, or would you like to proceed with comments?
I don't need it reread now.
Okay. So, Mr. Sullivan, do you need it reread?
No.
Okay, so you're up, sir. Do you have any comments?
The program, in theory, in general terms, certainly has merit. There are a number of items that I question a little bit, and so as it is written, I'm not in favor of it. Some of those items I think involve putting too much responsibility and authority on the director on call, and I would think also there's an opt-out option for a director. Does it really need to be in writing? Do they have to write a formal letter? Or can't they just say, tell you? Those are my thoughts now.
After having talked about it last week and then reading through it, I support it the way it stands. I have no issues, no problems with any of it. To just kind of further up what Mr. Sullivan just said, I don't see this being an issue for any of the directors on call to handle. We've kind of spelled out what you can and cannot do as part of this program, what you can help with, because that's the whole point, is to make it easier for the executive officer to contact somebody to get stuff done. It's not terribly in-depth stuff, so I think the way it's written would be adequate and would be helpful, I think, to the executive officer.
Ms. Isaacs?
I like it as it is written also. I think the program gives every director an opportunity to work with the executive officer. You don't get this buddy-buddy system, but you're giving every director to be on call every so many months, and you're the one that needs to alert the rest of the directors as to what's going on. So it helps build team participation, I think. And I think it's a very good idea.
I also agree with the program as written, mostly because of the fact that I, as the chair, the president, would be delegating that authority for signature of specific items, and I'm comfortable doing that. I trust each and every one of you that I'm working with, and if there are questions that are outside that realm that you've been given that authority to address, then you know how to contact the full board, and you would be advised to do so. I believe after talking with Mr. Lawrence more about it as well, he seemed receptive to that idea, and I think bringing some structure into how the board interacts with the executive officer and the staff is really important to ensure that we are not overstepping and getting into the micromanagement realm, which is easy to do. So I'm comfortable giving that authority to the director on call. Are there any reattacks?
I have no more comments.
Me neither.
No.
Okay, I'll open the floor to membership for 3 inputs. Seeing as there is none, do I have a motion to adopt the Director on Call program?
I'll make the motion that we adopt the Director on Call program as it is written.
I second that motion.
Okay. All of those in favor signify by raising your hand. All opposed? The motion passes. The next action item is to consider approval of a Fort Clark Springs Association communication policy. Mr. Sullivan, do you have inputs?
Yes, I do. The program, once again, I think there's certain parts that have merit, but it goes too far, in my opinion, in limiting and putting conditions on the access of directors to the executive officer. I feel directors should have free access to the executive officer. If they abuse that, then it's something that can be addressed. However, putting a policy forward that says they must make an appointment or be invited in to go see and talk to the executive officer, I do not think is good in facilitating communication back and forth and efficient operations. Secondly, the assignment of email addresses, as you know I've already talked about, I think should be up to the individual director to decide what email address they're going to be contacted at. And by the way, this past few days, all the emails that came with a CC to my old one, I appreciate that, getting them. Thank you, Bill. And that's my two main objections: the limited access to the executive officer and the dictating of what email address the director is to use. So, due to those two facts, I oppose it.
All right, well, let me just address the two things that Mr. Sullivan just mentioned. As far as limiting the access of the directors to the executive officer, I think that speaks to the point that the board, prior to me sitting on it, made about not micromanaging the executive officer. I think it's just common courtesy. Pretty much every job I've ever worked at, if I had a boss that did not sit in an office adjacent to me, if he needed to see me, he made an appointment or she made an appointment. That's just kind of common business practice. So I don't see how this limitation is a limitation at all. It's just a common courtesy to whoever's sitting in that chair. In addition to that, as far as the email usage goes, we need to look beyond us. We're not all always going to be on this board. So I think the continuity of being able to provide that email address to whatever incoming director might replace us eventually one day would be beneficial, because they're going to have all the email records that was sent from that position for starting here forward until the board at whatever point decides they don't want to do that anymore. So as it is written, I fully support it.
Ms. Isaacs?
I support the policy basically, and I'm one of the world's worst with time, but if I come up here, I always stop at the front office and ask if he was busy. Just checking in on somebody does not allow them to do their jobs. And that was one of the purposes of this communication policy, is to be able to allow our staff to be able to do their jobs. And that was another reason for bringing up the director on call. So he had one person to go to, that one person goes back and reiterates anything the rest of the board gets their information from. So I support this 100%.
The reason that this program started to even become a thought was because of the fact that there was a big lack of communication across the board and to administration on who knew what and how we were going to proceed with what we were going to do. And so this was something that in pretty much most jobs in the civilian sector, you'll see someone's on call. And that's your person to call if you've got an emergency or if you've got a list of parameters that we've established here. A very good example is when we just had this hailstorm over the weekend, or I don't even remember what day it was, but whatever it was, you know, Mr. Garcia needed somebody to contact. It's not realistic to call 5 different members of the board so that they all have the same information, and as opposed to it would be if you had one single point of contact that you know that's your person that you have to deal with for that month. We have established who will be the backup in the event that that individual is not able to do that portion of their duties. But while it is nice to be in an environment where we are friends and colleagues at the same time, we do owe all of our administration the respect of being able to do their job and not be blindsided with having to now sit with a director. Because let's all face it, when one of us walks into the room, whoever's in there drops what they're doing and they're now catering to the needs of the director. Whether it's important or not, to them, a director is very important, which we're very glad for. What was that?
20 seconds.
Thank you. So I do support, I was serious with this time. I do support this document as well. Are there any reattacks?
Dan had a problem with the emails. That's not even in this policy though, is it? Or did I just flat miss it? Is he still going to be allowed to use his own personal email? I don't see it in here. I just skimmed it, but I didn't see it again.
It says in the second paragraph. Says Fort Clark Springs Association email accounts will be established for all directors for continuity, correspondence between directors, administrative staff, and for correspondence with membership. And then it goes on.
Which also, when you work for a business, you get issued an email. So that's essentially the same thought process with that as well.
When I work for business, I'm getting a paycheck usually.
You're paid in gratitude, sir. Are there any reattacks to this topic, communication policy?
I do.
Okay.
No, I appreciate the business address myself that way. It protects me.
I will reattack it just very briefly. And this communication policy also addresses Facebook accounts for directors and makes it very clear what you can and can't do for that. We will make all of these available if it is in fact passed. Everything will be available, as well as how to contact the board, because we want to be available to the membership. So I'm going to open the floor for 3 member comments at this point in time. Ms. Warren?
Oh, that'd be Mrs. Warren.
Mrs. Warren.
Well, I hadn't really wanted to get up here and talk about it, but I thought I would. Okay, some of you people know I'm on a board. We meet 4 times a year. We have a 12-man board, and we do most of our stuff via email. If we want to get hold of our CEO, we just email Joe at spcsales.com. All the staff and management have spcsales.com. The board members, we use our own email address. I mean, that's much simpler. If we want to get hold of everybody, we have an SPC board. You all know this. You plop an SPC board or Fort Clark board, and it goes to all the board members. And we do most of our stuff through email. I agree with Dan on this one. I am going to keep my own email address. We've never been asked to change it. And if we have a problem, we want to get hold of CEO, email them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mrs. Dance.
I just set up an independent email address for Fort Clark Days because I don't feel like I need my email address all over the world. When I'm done with this job, I don't want people emailing me, asking me questions. So I think you should have a separate account. Makes sense.
Thank you. Any other comment? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the communication policy as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Give a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify with your raising your hand. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item that we're going to be addressing is establishing dates of Fort Clark Springs Gate limited public access. And what that means is instead of coming every month and having to hash out some of the traditionally open gate dates, we are going to publish a list of those events and dates that we will just say they're limited public access. So, Mr. Sullivan, we'll start with you.
This resolution is advantageous in the fact that it sets out for at least a year in advance what dates are going to be open to non-members and what conditions. So, as it's written, I'm in favor of it.
To follow up on that pretty simply, if we want to be able to, sorry, I started my own timer. If we want to be able to advertise, we have to have something like this. I mean, it does not make sense for us to continuously, almost every year, approve the same dates and not just approve them in advance. I mean, there's certain things like the 4th of July that I don't think we've ever denied the open gate for. So this helps us as we go forward, try to plan some of that advertising and try to start bringing in more people here. I would, as I've thought about this since we talked last week, I'd like to see this list grow a little bit down the road. Doesn't have to be today. But again, this is a really good start, and so I like it as it is written.
Ms. Isaacs?
I also like it as written. If for some reason somebody would like an open gate, give us at least 2 months. You know, it takes a month to get together, get it on an agenda. But these are dates that we're opening it up. Everybody knows that the gate's going to be open. So yes, I like it as it is written.
Okay. I would just like to make highlight the fact that just because the gate will be open, it doesn't mean it's free. So if there's a usage fee for the facilities, like let's say the swim park, those individuals would be paying the guest rate or the visitor rate, whatever the rate is, it's going to be published by administration to be able to utilize that facility. So I do want to make that highlight because I've seen some facial expressions in the audience. The other thing to note is that if there are events or specific dates that committees would like to see the board approve for an open limited access date, you would have no later than 30 days prior to that date to request it. And again, the verbiage of the resolutions will be available to make sure that it is crystal clear what the policy is regarding that. So I also do support this. Are there any reattacks?
Can I add something?
During the member input portion, yes, sir, you can. Mr. Sullivan, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. I'm going to open the floor for 3 member inputs, and Mr. Garcia will be the first.
I would just like to have it written on this open gate policy that this does not include the people that we have through security restricted. If you're restricted for a reason. So just because it's open gate doesn't mean y'all can come on in. So I don't know if that needs to be written in there so people understand that, but if you're restricted, there's a reason.
So add that. 2 more inputs. The one in the 3rd row. Ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Suzanne?
Suzanne.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm Suzanne Main, and I would say that I support having Fort Clark open for certain times of the year. But one thing I just want to make a comment, and that is that every time I call to the security gate to say I've got so-and-so coming in, I get a very surprised response, which makes me wonder if we really check people who come in. And I know that I have someone who came in, drove around. They're not a member, so I don't know how they. They're an acquaintance, so I don't know how they came in and drove around.
That's a different topic.
I know it's a
to
different
the
topic,
open
but
gate policy.
it is the opposite of an open gate. Then how open is it really on a daily basis?
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
I have 2 things I'd like to mention. As a director on the Kinney County Church Alliance, every year we have been having Easter sunrise service at the Old Quarry, and that is this Sunday at 7 a.m. I'd like to know that we have an open gate, and I would hope that we're not charging people to come in for a church service. The other thing that I would question as far as open gate would be garage sales. I don't know how you're going to handle that.
Thank you. Board, do we have any reattacks?
No.
I have nothing to add.
Nothing else.
I have one thing. We will add that verbiage to address that if someone is already restricted on a no entry list, then that remains in effect. So we will add that to this resolution as an amendment before it's approved. So with that amendment to it, do I have a motion to accept the limited public access resolution with that amendment?
I'll make the motion that we accept the resolution establishing limited public access to the Fort Clark Springs Association Inc. With the amendment to it that those individuals that have been restricted by security will not be allowed in under this policy.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion passes unanimously. We'll get those edits in there and then we'll get that signed. We have no unfinished old business that I'm aware of. New business. We have 2 items. Let me grab that really quick. After the orientation workshop, I called an emergency meeting to discuss a procedural concern that warranted seeking our legal counsel for clarification on. As the board, we are not authorized to engage legal counsel solely without the consent of the board, so that was necessary. And also at this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Dan Sullivan for his service on the board, so I'm going to ask you to stand up, Mr. Sullivan.
I can still do that.
This plaque was supposed to be presented at the annual meeting. It wasn't for some reason, but we're going to do it right now.
So, thank you for your service.
The plaque was presented for his service on the previous board as both the secretary and the outgoing president. And he is currently sitting in the director's seat. All right, so we do have some announcements. I put them up here for you to read. And I guess we do have a sunrise service. Correct, Mrs. Katie Brown? We have a sunrise service?
Yes.
On Sunday. So we're going to want to get that out in the dispatch as well. So with the policy that the resolution that was passed, it did open Easter as limited access. If there's typically a charge, there would be a charge, but there's no charge that I understand in the past for attending that, so there'd be no charge to worship God. The announcements are up here that you can read, but April 27th is the open house. We are going to open the gates at 12:30. We, the airport, will open the gates at 12:30. There will be food there for purchase, so if you're hungry, go. And if you want to see airplanes, there'll be a bunch of them. This is limited to members, not to the public. Additionally, Fort Clark Days Committee will be selling drinks, so please go support them by drinking your tasty beverages that will be non-alcoholic. Also on April 27th is the end of month golf tournament at 1 p.m. May 4th is Cinco de Mayo celebration at Dickman Dickman Lounge. And I believe you're going to have karaoke starting at 6, so please go support that. And then May 11th is Mother's Day potluck at Dickman Lounge as well, starting at 6 p.m. And then you also see there's some open jobs that were sent out via dispatch and posted on Facebook. This slide here has all of our board contact information, which will also be sent out via dispatch, so that members know how to get a hold of us. Just because you send us something, it doesn't mean we're going to address it right then and there, so please be patient with us. We're going to navigate through all of the requests and member concerns as quickly as we can, but now you know how to get a hold of us. So at this time, do I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss legal matters?
I make the motion we adjourn to executive session.
I will second.
Okay. This meeting is adjourned to go into executive session at 10:41. We will reconvene shortly.
Yes, sir.
So I call this meeting back to order at 11:20. In executive session, we discussed a member issue and some legal correspondence between our attorney regarding a contract. And at this time, what I'd like to do is ask if we have a motion to vote to allow our legal counsel to continue addressing this contract Any question?
I'll make a motion that we do so.
I'll second.
All in favor of allowing our legal counsel to continue addressing this contract? I can say which contract it is, right?
Sure.
With Pitney Bowes, signify by raising your hand. It's unanimous, so we will do that. The second thing was regarding a member issue. Do I have a motion on the floor to turn this member issue over to legal for resolution?
I'll make a motion that we turn this legal matter over to our lawyers.
I second.
Okay. All in favor of turning this member issue over to legal for resolution, signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. The next regular board meeting will be on May the 15th at 9:30 in the morning. And also, the director on call for this month, which starts tomorrow and ends at the next board meeting, will be the president, myself, Maria Perkins. The backup is Mr. Link. So we will make sure that our executive officer is aware. And if there's nothing else that I've missed, anything I missed? This meeting is adjourned at 11:21.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
We do need to sign these resolutions.
We're gonna amend add these
The
amendments to
one, yes.
right? Okay.
And then you want to hand this to Mr. Sullivan?
Maria did a thank you card to Old Quarry for the setup that they did. If you just wanted to sign, add your name to it.
Okay, I'll second.
Bill? Yes, sir. So this is, the limited access one is the one we need to make the adjustment to.